Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, October 16th. I'm Sandra Smith. This morning, the race for president tightens up. New polling showing Donald Trump closing in on Hillary Clinton as the GOP nominee issues a new challenge.
We should take a drug test prior, because I don't know what's going on with her. But at the beginning of her last debate, she was all pumped up at the beginning. And at the end, it was like, oh, take me down.
We are live on the campaign trail with the stunning new poll numbers straight ahead.
And Hillary Clinton's Wall Street speech is finally exposed. WikiLeaks giving us an inside look at what she said. And did it include a huge endorsement? We'll tell you.
In America, you knew this was coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the one, the only, Mr. Ken Bone.
Y'all ready for this?
Oh, Ken Bone.
Yes.
National sensation, Ken Bone.
Well,
You know, his sweaters are sold out for Halloween costumes. Fox and Friends starts right now. Any excuse for us to eat on this show?
Yeah.
So we got a big barbecue festival. We got a big barbecue fest outside. It's football season. We're throwing the ultimate tailgate party out on the plaza this morning. We've been trying different barbecue. That's the way to start it off.
isn't that the beauty of the Ken Bone sweater? I mean, it's like a holiday sweater, but yet it's the
I
ultimate
didn't
tailgate
even
sweater,
think
right?
about that they would be
warm.
sold out for Halloween costumes.
Almost immediately, that sweater was sold out.
In honor of Ken Bone, Little Red
Henry,
today.
Sandra Smith, nice to see you this
Wow,
morning.
this is so much fun. Good to be here.
And there's actually a sexy Ken Bone sweater sold out too. It's already sold out.
No, we're not going there. We got real news today. We got a lot going on.
We got a lot going on.
I just went there. All right,
Big
let's
news this morning. Brand new polls out this morning that show Donald Trump has lost very little support, actually, despite days of damaging accusations in the news.
This as he doubles down on his claims that he's competing in a rigged system.
Peter Ducey is live from Trump Tower in New York City with the very latest on these poll numbers. Peter, what do they tell us?
They tell us, Clayton and Sandra and Ed, that Donald Trump can keep this contest close even after having basically the worst kind of week that a candidate can have. He's trailing now by just 4 points among likely voters in the new Washington Post ABC News poll that has Clinton at 47, Trump at 43, then Gary Johnson with 5 and Jill Stein with 2. And everybody may have some room for improvement because the numbers of people who definitely say they're going to support Trump or Clinton are only in the high 80s. In New Hampshire yesterday, meanwhile, Trump offered up something that we have not heard before, to take a drug test, because he threw it out there that he thinks Hillary Clinton takes time off the trail in the days leading up to debates for some pharmaceutical assistance.
I think we should take a drug test prior to the debate. I do. I think we should. Why don't we do that? We should take a drug test prior, because I don't know what's going on with her. But at the beginning of her last debate, she was all pumped up at the beginning. And at the end, it was like, oh, take me down.
No word yet on whether or not anyone is interested in taking a drug test ahead of the next debate from the Democratic campaign. But Trump is also making it clear he does not think the women coming forward with stories about his behavior more than a decade ago are doing it as a public service. He thinks they are trying to help Hillary Clinton throw the election, tweeting that, quote, nothing ever happened with any of these women. Totally made up nonsense to steal the election. Nobody has more respect for women than me. And Trump does not have any public events now, 3 days ahead of the debate. But he did say yesterday, while he was making a point about preparation, that he doesn't think if you don't know the issues on Sunday, you're not going to know them by Wednesday, which is part of his way to get voters really curious about what Hillary Clinton is doing when we don't see her.
Wow.
Back to you.
Thanks, Peter. I think a drug test is out the window, but I think maybe they should set up a lie detector test. Both of them have to be hooked up to a lie detector test throughout the whole
That thing
debate.
might go off.
Can we talk about this poll? Because
It's unbelievable.
this was after this unbelievable week for
Maybe
really
2 weeks.
A couple
Going
weeks.
back, to the first debate. It's been a landslide of coverage just saying mainstream media, Donald Trump is done. This race is over. You see the numbers right there. 4 points. points. This is not an outlier. This is not some random internet poll where Donald Trump supporters say, look, it's close. No, it's the Washington Post ABC News.
Yeah. So does this say more about Donald Trump's campaign and its resilience, or does it speak more for Hillary Clinton?
You asked the perfect
not being
question,
a very
actually.
good candidate?
She's been in hiding, and it's been a circular firing squad for Donald Trump this week, right? I mean, she's not been coming out really talking much about all of these controversies, except at the debate.
She's been pretty silent on it.
So, you know, I don't know, maybe she should have been more vocal about it.
Her supporters have certainly been out there. They've been hammering Donald Trump. It shows his resiliency. But I think Sandra asks the right question. I think after all of this, it suggests more than a year of campaigning, Hillary Clinton has just still not sold herself to the American people. They're still like, ah.
So look at this extra portion of the poll here. So whether or not this Trump video makes any difference to most voters won't make a difference. 64%.
Wow.
More likely to vote for him.
I want to talk to the 1% and say, I'm more likely to vote for him now.
After I heard that tape where he gropes women, married women.
Even Trump supporters will have to acknowledge that was a self-inflicted wound. But when you look at that number, you're right, Clayton. I mean, big number saying it's not going to make a difference. And we're seeing it in this Washington Post poll. It's dramatic.
And 7 out of the 10 respondents in that poll, they do believe that Trump probably made unwanted sexual advances. And the majority say his apology about it was insincere. But still, look how close this race is.
Maybe we got past it in the Bill Clinton era. It's like, you know what? Okay, yeah, but he left with this high approval rating. We don't care about that. We just care about what he's going to do for the country.
Despite all the coverage of Trump and these issues, what about WikiLeaks and that coverage? Maybe a little less in the mainstream media, but all of a sudden, new batch of emails yet again over the last 24 hours, and includes speech transcripts where Hillary Clinton goes on and on, big hundreds of thousands of dollars she got for speeches to Goldman Sachs. Look at some of the things she said. This one is interesting. Quote, I think whoever runs for president next time has to have a very clear idea of where he or she wants to take the country and has to run on those ideas, because the election cannot be about personalities, partisan sniping, all of the irrelevant stuff the day after the election sort of dissipates, and you wake up and say, okay, now what am I going to do? It needs to be an election about the future. So, Hillary Clinton herself has not followed that. The first debate was all about, let me deliver this big punch about Miss Universe and send us down that road. Donald Trump's made his mistakes as well, but as you say, he's been resilient, and she, behind closed doors, was saying something completely different about the campaign she would run.
So let's be clear about these transcripts. Everyone was wondering whether or not we were going to see more than just like a little blurb here and there. There are 3 different full transcripts now that came out of John Podesta's email. In fact, the subject line said, Hillary Clinton paid Goldman Sachs speeches in the subject line to John Podesta, and as you go through them, it's pretty interesting to see that it was a Q&A session, basically. It was a little bit of a speech, but she sat there and really answered questions from these Goldman Sachs guys, whether over lunch and how she was going to work in this economy with the future of Wall Street.
And it's proof, as many had been suspecting, that she does talk out of both sides of her mouth. But going back to that Goldman transcript saying that the election cannot be about personalities, partisan sniping. And as you said, she launched her candidacy out of the gate. There we went.
And something you cover so closely with business. Listen to this one. Quote, I would like to see more successful business people run for office. I really would like to see that, because I do think, you don't have to have $30 billion, but you have a certain level of freedom. And then this one, I think, takes the cake. A bias against the rich, she says. Quote, part of the problem with the political situation, too, is that there's such a bias against people who have led successful and or complicated lives. The divestment of assets, the stripping of all kinds of positions, the sale of stocks. It just becomes very onerous and unnecessary. That's almost like Republican talking points about taxes and regulations, and yet here she is in debate after debate, rally after rally, saying Donald Trump's got all these tax problems, all these business problems.
However,
she's saying the opposite.
However, I think that Republicans looking for a bombshell this morning are going to be disappointed, because I think there's actually in some of these Q&As where she's talking to these executives at Goldman Sachs, she's basically saying, look, what you guys did was kind of a disaster. And these credit default swaps that everyone was involved in, no one even knew what it was. It was like this false economy. We need more transparency. And if you look at the ums that she throws into her sentences, you can tell she's sort of like wading into like a swampy
how far do I go
area.
Here?
Far? We need more transparency. We got into a heck of a mess, and she's sort of like treading lightly. I don't know.
But as you said, the mainstream media not covering this the same way, say, we are this morning. And I was talking to former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, this week, and he said, I just wish Donald Trump would focus on this and make this the headline of his message.
I don't know, but look at the poll, though. 4 points. Maybe he doesn't need to be focused.
But going back to Clayton's point, don't we see in these transcripts, though, that she's there with these wealthy bankers and Wall Street types? She's pocketing big money from these speeches, obviously, and then saying, you guys have a hard time. I get it. Now, you did make mistakes. She's straddling it to the point that people say, where do you come down? And you know who's reading these transcripts this morning going crazy? Bernie Sanders. Because this must show to him that all of her talk about reforming Wall Street, give me a break.
And he'll be out speaking on behalf of Hillary Clinton this week as well.
Sandra, why didn't she release these months ago? Now they're coming out right before the election.
And to be clear, the Hillary Clinton camp still not verifying the authenticity of these
not denying the authenticity.
Not denying them either.
Well, we've got a lot more news to get to this morning. Some headlines for you, starting with the Fox News alert. An American warship is targeted for the third time in a week. Multiple missiles fired near the USS Mason from a territory in Yemen controlled by Iran-backed rebels. The Mason was not struck and no crew members were hurt. Just 2 days earlier, a U.S. warship fired Tomahawk missiles into Yemen to destroy 3 radar sites that Pentagon leaders believed played a role in the earlier attacks. Chaos breaking out at a busy park after a driver plunges off of a bridge. San Diego police say a 24-year-old drunk driver lost control of his truck, hitting a guardrail on a highway and flying into a festival crowd.
All we heard was like a skid, a bang, and the vehicle went airborne. He flipped like 2 or 3 times. Everybody came together as one, and they lifted the vehicle up off of them and flipped it over.
The horrific crash leaving 4 people dead and several others hurt. The driver is in critical condition. And it's not a secret attack if you announce it. NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden mocking Vice President Joe Biden's cyber war threats. Tweeting, I get the feeling nobody told VP Joe Biden what covert operation means. This comes a day after Joe Biden said this.
We're sending a message. We have the capacity to do it. And the message he'll know it. He'll know it. And it'll be at the time of our choosing and under the circumstances that have the greatest impact.
WikiLeaks also joining in on the fray, saying if the cyber war was serious, it would be the NSA doing it, not the CIA. And those are your headlines on this Sunday morning.
We have a secret plan to come after you.
I'm going to tell you.
Unbelievable.
Telegraph it for you.
Yeah. Well, we have a Fox News alert. A brand new email bombshell for Hillary Clinton. Did the State Department make a deal with the FBI to reclassify her emails? A live report from Washington straight ahead.
Plus, the critics dismissed Hillary's America. The movie is nothing but lies and propaganda.
What are these Democrats hiding?
This is about buying and selling influence by foreign oligarchs and foreign governments. When you follow the money, there are very, very few coincidences.
But did WikiLeaks just prove filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza was right all along? Dinesh is here. He's in the hall. He's going to join us next. Come on in.
Well, the WikiLeaks email dump certainly painting a fuller picture of Hillary Clinton and the Democratic establishment. Those leaked emails suggesting campaign infighting, cozy ties to the press, Wall Street, party collusion, and even attempts to shake up the Catholic Church. They're the kind of bombshells depicted in Dinesh D'Souza's blockbuster documentary, Hillary's America. Critics initially dismissed the film as nothing but lies. But did WikiLeaks prove them right? Joining us now, Dinesh D'Souza, whose film is now out on DVD. Good morning.
Good morning.
What do you think when you see what is spilling out? You heard the critics saying that you're just out to get Hillary Clinton. She's not this monster behind closed doors you're trying to depict. What do you think now?
Well, every film presents a portrait, a theory, and our film has several themes about Hillary. One of them is we talk about the continuing history of bigotry in the Democratic Party, the party of slavery, of segregation, of Jim Crow. And then the critics go, well, that's not the party today. But one of the remarkable things about WikiLeaks is you now begin to see the face of the Democratic Party behind closed doors.
Well, let's take a look at that. I'm glad you said that, because one email about needy Latinos, they're talking about reaching out to Bill Richardson. He's still on TV a lot, especially on Univision and Telemundo, and notwithstanding the fact that he can be in bleep, it was worth getting him in a good place, from John Podesta. Also calling for a so-called Catholic spring. Quote, there needs to be a Catholic spring in which Catholics themselves demand the end of a Middle Ages dictatorship and the beginning of a little democracy and respect for gender equality in the Catholic Church. This was, to be clear, an email to John Podesta, but then he responded and said, we've been thinking about a Catholic spring. If Donald Trump and his aides were shown talking about a shakeup, a Muslim spring, let's change this religion, I suspect that the outcry would be astronomical.
Absolutely. In fact, they keep saying that we don't want to criticize Islam. This is not a war against Islam. We've got to be sensitive to Islam. We would worry about Islamophobia. So you begin to see how even bigotry changes its face. Today, the acceptable bigotry is against evangelical Christians and Catholics. And the kind of things that you can say about those groups you'd never say about anyone else. Other themes in the movie, the private and public Hillary, that they put on a public face. We're helping people. We're motivated by idealism. We're going to Haiti because we care about the suffering, but behind closed doors, they're trying to figure out how to get contracts to their own donors. Behind closed doors, they say completely different things to corporations, like, we're worried about the bias against the rich. Well, who's creating the bias against the rich if not Obama and Hillary?
Okay, but devil's advocate. Donald Trump has a tape emerge suggesting behind closed doors he's talking about potentially sexual assault, much different from the person he projects. So not just to pick on him, but in general, don't all politicians show us a different face in public from what they do privately?
Well, I think with Trump, the important thing to realize is that Trump's offenses are not against the public purse. Here's Trump 10 years ago. He's a private citizen on a bus. With Hillary and Bill, these are people who are dealing with the public treasury and the public trust. And we've seen systematic abuses of that. Think of the way the two Clintons were renting their Lincoln bedrooms, selling pardons to big-time felons and tax cheats.
Well, real quick, there was another email emerging saying that even Chelsea Clinton had concerns about pay-for-play at the Clinton Foundation. They did an independent audit by a major law firm that focused on philanthropy, and they found major problems.
Well, here's the big picture. I'm an immigrant. I came to America. I believe in ladders of opportunity. I believe in merit, giving everyone an equal chance. Now, the Democrats talk like this, but their ladders of opportunity are how close are you to the Clintons? How much are you willing to kiss their brass ring? How much are you willing to fork over? How much cash is in your suitcase?
Well, we'll see how that plays out in the final days. We appreciate it. Dinesh D'Souza, thanks for coming in. Pope Francis taking a controversial stance on illegal immigration, what he just said about the thousands of refugees crossing the border and what we should do with them. Plus, stunning new poll numbers show Donald Trump just 4 points behind Hillary Clinton. Did the mainstream media write him off too soon? A fair and balanced debate straight ahead.
Some quick headlines for you this morning. North Korea's latest missile launch fails, the projectile exploding shortly after liftoff. South Korea's military says the failed launch was made near the airport in the North Pyongan province. South Korea strongly condemning the launch since it violates UN Security Council resolutions. And a massive apartment fire lighting up the Arizona sky overnight. The four-alarm fire sending smoke and flames hundreds of feet in the air, destroying a construction site, forcing dozens of people to evacuate neighboring buildings. No one appears to have been hurt, but the cause of the blaze is a mystery. Clayton?
All right, thanks, Sandra. Well, the recent scandals may not be having much of an impact on Trump's campaign, as a new poll reveals this morning. But get this, he's just within 4 points of Hillary Clinton's lead. So is the media writing him off too soon? Let's ask our political panel this morning, Washington Post opinion columnist Catherine Rampell and GOP strategist John Burnett. Nice to see both of you this morning. Your paper, this bombshell comes out. This isn't some outlier poll, as Ed was talking about earlier. It's not some internet poll that Donald Trump gets excited about. It's the Washington Post ABC News poll. Are you surprised by these numbers?
Yes and no. So what was interesting to me about these numbers was that a large share of Republican voters did seem to be disgusted by Trump's behavior, did say that, I think half of them said that they believe Trump has been forcing himself on unwilling women. But the vast majority of people also said it's not a legitimate issue, they don't care, and it doesn't affect their vote.
So, John, not going to affect their vote. They're like, okay, we're fine with that. And the numbers seem to shift back. I think it was within 7 points, now down to 4. Were you surprised?
Within a margin of error.
Right.
Exactly. Well, I agree with my fellow panelists, is that people are looking at this based upon math, not politics, based upon who is going to put more money in their pockets, who is going to pick the right Supreme Court justices, and who's going to do the right thing based upon what's in it for them.
I've seen this on Facebook. I mean, the messages seem to be all the same from Republican supporters, which is, You know, yes, it was disgusting,
Right.
etc., but I care about immigration.
And it happened 11 years ago. That's what a lot of people are saying,
Right.
at least, you know, in my social media circles.
Catherine, dissect this. Here's the likely voters and whether or not, when they looked at this tape, how it broke down. Let's take a look at this. So 64% says it won't make a difference. 35% said less likely to make a difference. Who's the 1%, now that they saw this tape, say they're more likely to vote for Donald Trump?
I don't know. Maybe it's somebody trolling the pollsters.
What do you think about? Do you think? Now we hear, of course, John, this, and as a strategist, jump in on this point, which is from the Donald Trump campaign, that, you know, you hear this from Mike Huckabee yesterday on our show, Newt Gingrich earlier this week, saying he needs to stay on issue. He needs to stick to the issues and stop when all of these new allegations keep coming out, keep shooting them down, saying, well, have you seen that woman? I would never do that. And instead, it seems though he's been doing that all week, and these poll numbers trick up. So who's right here?
Look, the third time should be a charm for Donald Trump. He didn't do so well in the first debate. He came back in the second debate. The third debate, for the 90 minutes, he needs to stay on message, talking about what's most important to Americans. If he spends 90 minutes attacking Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, then that'll be the biggest GOTV effort for his opponent. He needs to talk about gun rights. He needs to talk about the economy, jobs, things that are most important to the everyday voter.
I agree with this. I think the issue with Trump right now is that when he gets defensive, when these accusations rise, and he starts attacking the accusers themselves, which risks alienating a very important demographic that he really needs to get to the polls, which is basically white suburban women. Women who are maybe leaning Republican but are turned off by his rhetoric. He needs to speak to their issues, whether those are economic or social, and leave this sort of this reaction to lash out and kind of get down in the mud behind.
Right. All that does is just solidify his base, but he needs the middle.
Right.
And the only way to attract the middle is to deliver a message, give them a reason to vote for him.
How important is Wednesday night's debate?
I think it's very important. Generally, in previous elections, it's not clear that debates have actually been a turning point, but there is so much discussed on both sides against both candidates, and the numbers are so close at this point that I think there are enough people who could tip one way or the other from this debate that it really matters.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Perhaps the biggest October surprise is Donald Trump staying on message for 90 minutes.
We'll see Wednesday night, perhaps the biggest debate of the entire election season. Our own Chris Wallace will be moderating that debate on Wednesday night. Great to see both of you this morning. Thanks so much. We've got a Fox News alert now. Brand new email bombshell to Hillary Clinton this morning. Did the State Department make a deal with the FBI to reclassify her emails? A live report from Washington on that story straight ahead. In America, you knew this was coming. SNL does their best Ken Bone.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the one, the only, Mr. Ken Bone.
Y'all ready for this?
A Fox News alert, brand new, claims this morning that the State Department pressured the FBI to change the classification of some of Hillary Clinton's emails in a quid pro quo for overseas missions. Garrett Tenney is live in the nation's capital with the newest allegations unfolding. Garrett, what do we know?
Well, Sandra, these new allegations involve a senior State Department official and the FBI agents who were directly involved in the investigation of Hillary Clinton's emails. Congressman Jason Chaffetz tells us it is a flashing red light of potential criminality. Late Friday, the FBI provided interview summaries and notes to the House Government Oversight and Intelligence Committees. Chaffetz, who was briefed on those documents, tells Fox News the alleged quid pro quo involved the State Department's Undersecretary for Management, Patrick Kennedy, who was pushing an FBI official to change the classification of at least one of Hillary Clinton's emails to a lower, less classified level. In that same conversation, the FBI official brought up a previous request from the Bureau that the State Department create additional slots for the FBI at overseas missions. In a statement to Fox News, Chaffetz slammed the FBI, saying, left to their own devices, the FBI would never have provided these records to Congress and waited until the last minute. This is the third batch because the FBI didn't think they were relevant. Chaffetz has not read the documents himself, which include classified records that must be read in a secure facility, but he said there is some conflict in the record. Based on briefings from staffers, he said there are grounds for at least 4 congressional hearings over these allegations once Congress comes back. Now, the FBI responded last night with a lengthy statement explaining that the 2 conversations regarding the classification of Clinton's email and the additional slots for the FBI overseas were separate issues, and maintains everything was above board, saying the classification of the email was not changed and it remains classified today. Although there was never a quid pro quo, these allegations were nonetheless referred to the appropriate officials for review. We'll get more on this in this next week. These transcripts are suspected to be released on Monday to Congress.
Wow. Thanks. And troubling, too, to think that the FBI would become a political organization. We like to think in this country that the Justice Department is separate from the political process of this country.
James Comey, we've had to listen to him say it over and over again, that politics does not play a part.
You're absolutely right. I mean, James Comey has explaining to do, still going back to his news conference where he laid out how troubling all of this was for Hillary Clinton, and then said, but no charges.
Right.
And then Patrick Kennedy as well, who's mentioned by Garrett Tenney. He was a top State Department official under Hillary Clinton who was in the middle of Benghazi, all kinds of questions about what he told the public, didn't tell the public, what was going on behind the scenes. And now he pops up here, hey, FBI, we'll scratch your back if you retroactively say this is not secret. What were they trying to do? The point is because they were trying to say there was not classified information on Hillary Clinton's server. There was.
All right. Well, that being reported this morning, and we should mention the FBI is denying all of it. All right. Well, the Pope is now speaking out about how child refugees are being treated. Pope Francis urging the world to help bring in the displaced kids instead of forcing them out. He spoke out against countries that close their borders or deport them back to uncertain futures back home, warning of the horrors they could face along the way, like abduction, human trafficking, and child labor. Well, a car smashed to pieces and split in half. Here's the image of it. And miraculously, all of those involved in this crash are still alive. A drunk driver in a Mercedes-Benz collided with this Mazda in Long Island, New York, sending it flying off the road. The impact slicing the Mazda into into half, as you can see, exposing everything inside. The driver of the Mercedes now facing DWI charges. Well, I scream, you scream. Blue Lives Matter wants you to boycott Ben & Jerry's ice cream. This after the company said that they won't be silent in the face of injustice and endorsed the Black Lives Matter movement. Protesters called the move downright dangerous, releasing a statement saying the activist group spreads baseless claims that cost officers their lives. Here it is, debate sensation Ken Bone getting the late night comedy treatment.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the one, the only, Mr. Ken Bone.
Ken, you're not going to turn out to be a weird little creep or anything, are you?
Maybe.
Oh, no. Oh, my.
Oh, my God.
Well, the real Ken Bone set the internet on fire during the debate with a question on energy and his outfit before landing in a massive endorsement with Uber. And Clayton reports to me this morning that those sweaters are sold out for Halloween costumes.
Yeah, you can't get the main male version of the Ken Bone costume anymore. But however, Janice, you can get the sexy Ken Bone outfit, which is available for Halloween. That just shows you that they can turn anything into a sexy Halloween outfit.
It's not good.
Right.
It's not good, Clayton.
Hey, Janice.
Sandra and Clayton, you know we're having a tailgate party out here on the plaza. I know. Hello, Giants. You need to do it today. You need to do it today. And we're going to talk barbecue with Chef Matt here in just a second, but we got to do the weather real quick. How's the weather today?
It's going to be a beautiful day.
Very nicely done, Matt. 54 right here in New York. It's going to warm up to the mid-70s today, 69 in Kansas City. We've got a little cold front pushing across the upper Midwest, as well as the Great Lakes could bring some rain and perhaps a thunderstorm. But the big story is the Northwest, where they are getting storm after storm after storm into this region. Northern California, Central California, you'll get some rainfall out of this, which is good news. We're also going to see some higher elevation snow, some gusty winds as several of these systems make their way inland, and then the potential again for some higher elevation snow, 2 feet maybe, and up to a foot of rain across the northwest down towards central California. So we'll be watching this. I can't, oh my gosh, can you hear my stomach growling right now?
I can hear.
I love the smell of barbecue in the morning, Matt. Matt, you are from Butcher Bar. Tell us what you are doing for us for our tailgate party.
Well, we're famous for our smoked meat, so we brought our pulled pork, smoked 14 hours, our brisket, and our famous burnt ends. So we're gonna carve these things up right here.
Let's do this right now!
And we're gonna start with the burnt ends.
Okay.
And we're gonna let you try them.
Oh my gosh, it's never too early for burnt ends. Oh, it's smoking. Oh, Chef Matt.
I want you to try.
You guys do
this too.
tailgate parties for the Giants, don't you?
Yes, actually, we're going to be with Chef Dino Gatto from Rails on November 6th.
Nice.
Giants versus the Eagles. Thank you very much. And we'll be there doing our tailgate.
Okay.
We do catering, we do full pig roasts, and obviously we bring our smoker everywhere we go.
The smoker!
It's called the Fat Man.
What's your secret? So this is your signature dish, right?
Right. I want you to try the burnt ends.
They're melt in your mouth.
There's no secret here. The rub is a little bit of a secret. We'll tell you our ingredients. We won't tell you the ratios, and then it's just about smoking time. So you have to allocate about 12 hours to get this product looking this way and tasting this way.
I love you.
Love you too.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you
and
for
Henry,
having us.
beat that, baby.
Janice,
beat that.
You're throwing it to me better than Eli Manning's been throwing lately, so that's what I'm worried about. I want him to do well. I want him to do well. I know. I'm sorry. Joe Isidori, Black Tap. Black Tap. You guys, you've got 2 locations in Manhattan. You've got a third coming at 55th.
That's right. That's right. We do.
And these burgers, let's run through them quickly, and I want to get to the grill.
Okay.
So,
first one, Texan, big boy, barbecue bacon, onion rings, cheese, everything. Over here to Greg Norman, the official.
I love Greg Norman, a friend of mine.
We buy his Wagyu beef.
Oh.
And we win every burger competition in New York City every year.
These are the trophies.
That's it, right here. These are our babies.
All right.
Right
So
here.
you're not just talk. You're backing it up.
We do it all.
All right.
That's
all
it.
right.
We're here
What's this one?
This is the old-fashioned Swiss mushrooms, onions, horseradish, and then all the ladies love the Californian turkey burger, truffle mayo, avocado.
An avocado. Okay,
Yeah.
now people see how beautiful it looks when they go to the restaurant or when they see it on Fox and Friends and say, I can never make it. Let's get to the grill. Show us how you do it.
We're going to make our bestseller called the All-American Prime Beef from Pat LaFrida. Okay.
Oh, Pat's great.
Yeah, he's the best. Some sea salt. Okay, flip it over. Throw it on the grill. Really simple. Really simple. What we do afterwards with TV magic, we have one ready.
We already have one ready to
It's
go.
always 2 pieces of American cheese, right? So you kind of just throw it on there.
Oh, 2,
Give
not
it-
1.
No, always 2. Never 1. And then we have it nice
I've
and
been doing it
gooey.
wrong my whole life.
I'm sorry to break the news to you. So, and then after that, the bun. Bun's very important. Brioche buns suck. Martin potatoes buns, the best.
Oh, yeah, those are good.
Special sauce, Thousand Island, kicked up, little chipotle, little pickle, little Worcestershire
Is that better
sauce.
than the Shake Shack sauce or not?
We don't talk about Shake Shack. Okay, so after we're
My
done,
son is going to be upset. He likes Shake Shack.
come to Black Tap.
All right, Black Tap.
All right, so now, here we go. Juicy, cheesy burger, ready to go.
I got to try it.
Some lettuce, some tomato. All right. Cut it in half for you so you don't make a mess.
All right.
Okay, grab it.
I'm trying
Go
it
for it.
real
Go
quick.
for it. There you go. Perfect.
Best tailgate party ever. I want to send it back inside. Guys, this is delicious. You got to get out
I
here.
can't even speak.
You gotta
You
get
can't
out
even
here.
speak. Your mouth is full.
I can't speak.
With that burger.
See, you gain weight when you work on Fox and Friends. That's part of the beauty of this show.
Not you, Clayton.
No.
All right, so much to get to this morning. Hillary Clinton hits Wall Street hard on the campaign trail.
We're going to make sure that nobody, no corporation and no individual can get away without paying his fair share. I think it's time that the wealthy and corporations paid their fair share to support this
Well,
country.
you just opened the next segment.
But when she speaks right to their face, it's a whole different story. We've got to look at her Wall Street transcripts, those highly anticipated transcripts, Clayton, next.
Plus, forget about the election. This candidate is winning the Halloween costume race.
I can guess.
Yeah, I think you take a guess at that. We'll be right back.
And Hillary Clinton staying mostly behind closed doors just days before the final debate. Meanwhile, her campaign going on defense following more embarrassing exposures thanks to WikiLeaks. Rich Edson live from Chappaqua, New York this morning with more on Hillary Clinton's damage control strategy. Good morning, Rich.
Hey, Rich.
Good morning, Ed and Sandra Clayton. We are been hearing for quite some time of Hillary Clinton dismissing calls for her to release the transcripts of the paid speeches she gave to Wall Street. During the Democratic primary, Senator Bernie Sanders demanded that she do so, saying that they would show closer ties to Wall Street than she was letting on. Clinton is now calling out large financial institutions like Wells Fargo, saying she's going to rein in Wall Street. And now WikiLeaks has released what it is saying are parts of the transcripts from the speeches that she gave to Wall Street a few years ago. In one of those instances, Clinton admits she'd rely on those in the industry to regulate the financial industry. It's something actually pretty common in D.C. She says, quote, "There's nothing magic about regulations. Too much is bad, too little is bad. How do you get to the golden key? How do we figure out what works? And the people that know the industry better than anybody are the people who work in the industry." That's the type of statement that would certainly be in odds with Senator Bernie Sanders and of recent calls from Senator Elizabeth Warren. Her campaign refuses to confirm or deny the authenticity of these emails. Every time they're asked about the controversy surrounding the content of these emails, they immediately deflect to this idea that Russia is the one, the Russian government, is hacking her campaign and Democrats' emails, and then releasing it in some effort to try to thwart her campaign. They're comparing it to a modern-day Watergate break-in and saying in a statement, quote, "4 decades later, we're witnessing another effort to steal private campaign documents in order to influence an election. Only this time, instead of filing cabinets, it's people's emails they're breaking into, and a foreign government is behind it." A campaign spokesperson is pinning this also on Trump, saying it's frightening how close the foreign policy of Donald Trump aligns with Vladimir Putin's preferences. Back to you guys.
Rich Edson, live for us in Chapel this morning. Appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks, Rich.
All right, coming up here on the show, the Obama administration preparing to launch a cyber attack against Russia for those WikiLeaks. But is it simply revenge for the Clinton campaign?
Plus, Donald Trump knows what it's like to get cut off during the debate. I do.
All the time. What are you interrupting?
Please.
Ain't a pretty boy toy.
Will the final debate be the first fair and balanced one? We will discuss that next. The moderators interrupted Donald Trump at least 13 times compared to the 2 times Hillary Clinton was called out during last week's town hall.
That was the line.
What do you think will happen if Aleppo falls?
I think Aleppo is a disaster, humanitarian-wise.
What do you think will happen if it falls?
You voted for it, and you shouldn't have. Well, I just want to
There's been lots of fact-checking on that. I'd like to move on to an online question.
Wants to allow.
And why did it morph into that? No, answer the question. Do you still believe?
I do. You interrupt me all the time. Why don't you interrupt her?
Would you please? Remember that moment? So will the final debate be the first unbiased debate? Let's ask Amy Holmes, a political analyst with Rasmussen Reports. Good of you to be here this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
What are we going to get from this third highly anticipated debate moderated by our very own Chris Wallace?
Well, certainly viewers are hoping that it's going to be unbiased. And Chris Wallace, of course, with all of his experience as a long-time journalist on the Sunday shows.
One of the best in the biz.
Absolutely putting people's feet to the fire. I think that's going to be his goal. The question is, will the candidates?
It's a fair point, right? So he can ask the most substantive questions on the planet, but if the candidates choose to mudsling, well, that's out of his hands. As far as what the actual discussion will be, we've gotten some hints from Chris Wallace: debt and entitlements, immigration, the economy, the Supreme Court, foreign hotspots, and fitness to be president.
Fitness to be president. I think that's an area where you might see the mud start flying between these two candidates. But I also want to call your attention to the fact that among likely voters at Rasmussen Reports, we found going into the first debate that 46% of likely voters expected the moderators to be biased in the direction of Hillary Clinton. Only 6% thought that moderators would be helping Donald Trump. And unfortunately, from some of those clips, the clip you just played with all those interruptions, I think unfortunately a lot of the voter skepticism was warranted.
Yeah, and it is highly expected that Chris Wallace, one of the best questioners in the business, is going to challenge both of them when necessary. Ask the questions, and then, of course, the art of moderation is in the follow-up. If a follow-up is necessary, you do that. But in previous debates, most of those follow-up questions did go to Donald Trump.
A lot of them didn't. From my point of view, as a frustrated viewer, I wanted the follow-ups to themselves be more substantive. For example, on questions of foreign policy when it comes to Syria, for both candidates to have their feet be put to the fire. Syria, of course, is a humanitarian crisis, but it's also a geopolitical mess, and we didn't get a lot there.
Well, the expectations are high. That happening Wednesday night this week, the final showdown. And as we let off this morning's hour, the polls show a very close race still. So
oh, it is. Absolutely.
We will be watching. All right. Thank you so much, Amy Holmes. Good of you to be here. All right. Well, the headline everyone's talking about this morning, Trump down just 4 points in the latest poll. We'll discuss why. Top of the hour. And some college students say Hillary Clinton is a role model. Coming up, you'll see what happens when we ask them why.
For a good role model. Hillary Clinton, 100%.
Hillary Clinton, definitely Clinton.
Is there like one accomplishment she had from her lifetime as a politician that sticks out to you most?
Not particularly.
More so just the fact that she's a female.
Being the first woman to like run for president.
She's kind of like morphed her political views to align with like what the majority of the country wants.
Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, October 16th. I'm Sandra Smith. A campaign stunner. Hillary Clinton likely waking up this morning and asking this question.
Why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Oh, that never gets old.
Oh, we just did that. Brand new polls show Donald Trump within just 4 points of Hillary Clinton after a very big couple of weeks. Did the mainstream media write off Trump too soon? We're live on the campaign trail straight ahead.
Plus, that's not the only bombshell Hillary Clinton's dealing with this morning. The State Department accused of trying to make a backroom deal with the FBI to reclassify her emails after the fact.
Unbelievable.
Was a Clinton cover-up in the works?
And it was the Bernie Sanders who demanded Hillary Clinton release her Wall Street speeches. Remember this?
If you give a speech for $225,000, it must be an extraordinary speech, don't you think?
Well, this morning, thanks to WikiLeaks, we know what she said to Goldman Sachs in those Q&A sessions for $225,000. Wow. Fox and Friends, Hour 2 starts right now.
Parking lot party. How's that music for you?
This is great. That's welcoming both of us to the show.
Oh, yeah. Welcome yourselves to the show.
Hey, Clayton. Thanks for having us.
Well, we bring you in. We got so much food on the plaza. Ed Henry, Sandra Smith here this morning. And we've got a big tailgate party outside.
I know, and I can't hear Ed's stomach growling anymore because he was out there already.
He had a giant
burger at 6 a.m.
Wagyu beef, yeah.
We're going to have Sandra eat one.
So we're having like a competition, a friendly competition amongst these burger makers out there.
Oh, they're delicious.
Yeah. We'll throw a little heat on the fire. So we've got a lot to get to this morning. Jam-packed show for you this morning because as we head this week into that final debate, brand new polls out this morning showing Donald Trump has lost very little support despite days of damaging accusations in news stories.
And this as he doubles down on his claims that he is competing in a rigged system.
So we have Deuce on the loose, Peter Ducey, live from Trump Tower, New York City, right here in Manhattan with the latest poll numbers. Good morning, Peter.
Hey, Peter.
Good morning, and it's really interesting, you guys. Donald Trump is no longer just saying that he thinks Hillary Clinton is off the trail because she's somewhere getting rest. He thinks that she is somewhere getting shot up with drugs so that she can participate in the next debate, and he's calling for both of them to take a drug test before it happens.
I think we should take a drug test prior to the debate. I do. I think we should. Why don't we do that? We should take a drug test prior, because I don't know what's going on with her. But at the beginning of her last debate, she was all pumped up at the beginning. And at the end, it was like, oh, take me down.
And despite many pundits declaring Donald Trump done after a long week of bad press, a new Washington Post ABC News poll shows he's still got a pulse, registering 43% of support among likely voters, just 4 points behind Hillary Clinton's 47%. And both Clinton and Trump have voters saying on their sides that they could be convinced to back somebody else. This poll has 88% of Trump supporters saying they're definitely behind him, and 89% of Clinton backers saying they're definitely behind her. Trump is also now sharing a story from a former Miss Tennessee USA who says her experience with Trump was nothing like what some of the other pageant contestants have alleged. Amy Colley Tyson, who competed in 2005, wrote, and Trump retweeted, that, quote, Mr. Trump greeted us and wished us good luck. Melania spoke as well. Not once did he glance, speak, or gesture inappropriately in our dressing room. He kept his gaze on Melania during most of the encounter. Chaperones were present at all times. Mr. Trump and his wife then exited to enter the next dressing room. And it is worth pointing out, now that we know Trump is only 4 points behind in this big national poll, a little more than 3 weeks to the election, he did draw 2 big crowds in New England yesterday, in New Hampshire and also in Maine. So it does not appear that people ran away from him and ran away from supporting him in droves, again, the way that some in the mainstream press would have liked you to believe.
Right.
Back to you.
All right, Peter Ducey live for us at Trump Tower. Yeah, we dive into these numbers a little bit more deeply this morning. Asking that specific question to the Washington Post and ABC
Did it make a
News
difference?
Poll. Did it make a difference? Did this video, did the Trump video make a difference to you? And overwhelmingly, 65% or 64% said it won't make a difference at all, and 35% said it would make them less likely to vote for him.
What is Hillary Clinton thinking this morning? It's sort of like, what do you try to throw at Donald Trump next? Literally everything has been thrown at him. And also he's had some mistakes, candidly, that have been self-inflicted wounds.
Well,
and yet he's 4 points down in a real serious Washington Post, ABC News.
And her camp say that she is prepping for this Wednesday night debate, which she did a lot of prep before. But can I just remind everybody, as Peter just said, 3 weeks out, we're 23 days to Election Day. How unprecedented is that? You covering these elections, that we are now looking at Hillary Clinton just leading Donald Trump by 4 points right now in this national
It's unbelievable after all that's happened. I'm thinking about Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta. You know, when De Niro's playing him, and he's just being assaulted with one thing after another, and he says, Ray, I never went down, Ray. I never went down. Hillary Clinton has to be looking at Donald Trump at this last debate with Chris Wallace there saying, this guy won't go down.
Well,
That's interesting.
Well, and also, to be fair, Hillary Clinton won't go down. Every day, it's a new WikiLeaks. Every day, it's a new cut. You know, death by 1,000 cuts. And today, this now is out because, and we have a Fox News alert on this, 34 summaries have been released thanks to a Freedom of Information Act. This has nothing to do with WikiLeaks. You know, we think it's all the WikiLeaks. No, Freedom of Information Act has now shed some light on what exactly was going on with the FBI and the State Department. Was there some sort of quid pro quo?
They were trying to pressure the FBI to say, look, there were some secret emails, and Catherine Herridge has been reporting on this first for Fox before anybody else, saying, look, there were some secret emails in here, Patrick Kennedy over the State Department calling the FBI, allegedly, according to these documents, and saying, could we retroactively say they're not classified anymore? And, oh, by the way, we might throw the FBI a bone with some overseas jobs and things.
Right.
Quid pro quo mentioned in these documents. Now, the FBI is saying, no, nothing went wrong here. But this is going to raise more questions about that FBI investigation.
You say that, but there's just this drip, 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 and you don't know what is going to actually have a significant impact on Hillary Clinton's campaign when there's just so much coming out.
Yeah, Charles Krauthammer, I remember about 7 months ago, said when asked the question, would Benghazi bother her? Would any of this stuff bother her? He said no. She's got her support. It's not going away. It's unflappable. And all of these things that keep coming out don't seem to bother and aren't going to move the needle.
Right.
And I mean, people know her. That's the argument, right? From the Democratic side, you know her. She's been vetted. And Charles Krauthammer seems to think that this stuff doesn't really
But when you talk about drip, drip, think about now in the WikiLeaks, over 10,000 emails from John Podesta's account already out there. They're promising there's more coming. Look at what she was saying about opposing the opposition out there to immigration reform. This is from some of the Wall Street transcripts. Quote, they just have a backward-looking view of America, and they play on people's fears, she's saying, of the Republicans, not on people's hopes, and they have to be rejected. I don't care what they call themselves. I don't care where they're from. They have to be rejected because they are fundamentally un-American. So she's called Donald Trump supporters a basket of deplorables and saying if you're not with her on immigration reform, you're un-American.
And she also behind these closed doors. So these speeches are now the full transcripts that we have overnight. Again, another death by 1,000 cuts. In these Podesta emails, the full transcripts, more Q&A sessions where she's sort of sitting down with these folks from Goldman Sachs. And on the one hand, she's saying, look, we need more transparency. We need to know what's going on in the financial sector. But I really think that we should have rich people running the show.
While she's making hundreds of thousands of dollars for these speeches,
these
by
Goldman
the way.
Sachs speeches, remember, $225,000 a pop for several different speeches. But specifically some of the comments that we read in these transcripts coming out on what she had to say about successful business people, saying, quote, I would like to see more successful business people run for office.
Right.
I really would like to see that because I do think, you don't have to have $30 billion, but you have a certain level of freedom.
So she's saying basically what Donald Trump's argument has been, it's like, I'm not bought and sold by the rich people.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take these donations. I'm not going to be bought and sold by one billionaire in Las Vegas who wants to pay for my campaign. I'm funding my own campaign. I'm going to do it myself. So she's basically echoing Donald Trump's argument and why he's not bought and sold.
And then look at this one. She said, quote, part of the problem with the political situation, too, is that there's such a bias against people who have led successful and or complicated lives. The divestment of assets, the stripping of all kinds of positions, the sale of stocks. It just becomes very onerous and unnecessary. That almost sounds like a quote from Donald Trump in the first debate at Hofstra saying, look, there's all this thing with leverage and it's complicated. And she's saying, that's terrible what you're doing, Donald Trump. But before Goldman Sachs and these bankers and these Wall Street folks, I understand it's complicated. It's okay.
But then
what you guys do.
Remember why we shouldn't be shocked, right, Ed? Because where did so much of her campaign funding come from?
Of course, Wall Street.
Wall Street.
Right.
I don't know.
That's why Bernie Sanders was demanding these transcripts months ago, Clayton.
Yeah, it is interesting, though. I think, Republicans looking for a bombshell on these things. You read these transcripts, which we did this morning fully, and I don't think there's a bombshell that stands out here. I think, if anything, it shows that she's sort of straddling the fence, and she's saying to them, in fact, there are some quotes in there where she's pointing out, she's like, look, you guys need to be more transparent. No one knew what a credit default swap was, and this is what got us into this massive
But does that get to the question of honest and trustworthiness when you're out there saying, no, Bernie Sanders, I know Wall Street better than anyone. I'm going to reform it. I'm going to clean it up. And then you go behind closed doors and say, hey, guys, the party's pretty cool. Right. You guys make a lot of money. I get it. I mean, that is two different things.
All right.
Let us know your thoughts. Friends at FoxNews.com. You can weigh in on our Facebook page this morning, FF Weekend.
All right. And a lot of news to get to. Chaos breaking out at a busy park after a driver plunges off of a bridge. San Diego police say a 24-year-old drunk driver lost control of his truck, hitting a guardrail on a highway and flying into a festival crowd.
All we heard was like a skid, a bang, and the vehicle went airborne. He flipped like 2 or 3 times. Everybody came together as one, and they lifted the vehicle up off of them and flipped it over.
Wow, well, the horrific crash leaving 4 people dead and several others injured. The driver is in critical condition. And a tragedy rocking the pro football community this morning. Former New York Jets defensive end Dennis Byrd was killed in a head-on crash in Oklahoma. Byrd inspired the world in 1992 after